In the show today, I speak to Laurence. He's got a business that's in feast and famine. Some months he's making tens of thousands of pounds. In other months, hardly enough money to pay for beans on toast. So he had to go and get a full-time job just to keep everything working at home. Well, let's see if we can help grow this business. Take a listen. Welcome back, campers, to this here business broadcast. I'm back here with JB. If you are new to the podcast, or fairly new, for 300 episodes I've done this solo, and I had an idea to make the podcast more interactive and get it ready to be on YouTube. And I thought I would need a co-host, but a junior co-host. I'm still the kingpin in this organisation. And so JB, who I used to work with and I love, and is an amazing guy who's also very experienced in audio, media, entertainment.
Oh, I like that. That sounds good, doesn't it?
But also has got a podcast company, and his job is really making podcasts come to market. And I thought, well, he could probably build a much stronger business on the back of my personal brand. So I thought I'd get him on the show and we would do this together, because he's also very passionate about entrepreneurship and helping people grow their business. Would that be
that's a fair assessment? Yeah. I need you to grow my business, and
you've done a lot of things, haven't you, JB? I thought about this.
Here we go. Every episode just a slagging off a JB episode. No. I've done a lot of things.
No, in the sphere of entrepreneurship. So you
Yes.
do come with some experience, not as much as me, but some.
No, I
experience
know a lot of things that don't work. Is what I know. You know a few more things that do work. I know a lot of things that don't work. Drop shipping doesn't work. But small buy-to-let property in Sheffield when you live in South London does not work.
No, I was thinking about that when I was driving into work this morning. I thought, oh, JB's coming on the podcast. I'm looking forward, because I do like spending time with you, basically because I get so much more material out of taking the mick out of you. Which is
says Ken from the Barbie movie. Ironic.
You said that on the last episode, which we recorded last week when I was wearing this. Was we recording it last week?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot. I'm glad to see you wore it again, the exact same outfit. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
But going back, you used to do quite a bit in property, didn't you?
Yes.
Why did you stop?
I hated it.
How many properties did you have? Because I remember it was quite a few, wasn't it?
Yeah, we used to...
Well, how many tenants did you look after?
We looked after 91 tenants. We had 21 houses, 21 houses, 93 tenants. We managed about 15 million quid's worth of property, and I hated every second of it.
Did you...
I did not have it right, though. So in that business, there wasn't enough margin, we didn't think, to bring in other people, so we tried to do it ourselves. So it was me and my wife. We just had a baby. She was the sort of the person who did all of like the ASTs, the contracts, the right to rent, all that stuff. We're effectively like a letting agency for HMO properties. Then I would do
Did you own any of them, or you just rented?
No, so we owned 3 rental properties, but we were managing these ones.
Right.
And I think this is a really important thing. I think property is a great way to protect your wealth and grow your wealth. I think to cash flow your lifestyle is very, very difficult. It's really challenging.
Yeah, a lot of people that listen to this podcast, watch my content, will know that I'm a big fan of property, but I always say it's business first, property second.
100%.
And it should always be that way round.
Yes.
If you make excess wealth, it's a great place to park for wealth. But
for sure,
you shouldn't try and see property as, if we look at those fast pound, slow pound dynamics that I always talk about at seminars, content, podcast, YouTube, you must make sure that you have positive cash flow. So I was interested. So you've built £15 million worth of property, some of it your own, 3 of them, and then you rented from landlords.
Which is a very small percentage. I had 3 baby buy-to-lets in Sheffield. Yeah. Shout out to the S14 crew. So it was not much of the 15 million quid's worth of
S14. Is that the postcode?
That was the postcode. And do you know how I know it? Because I put a leaflet through every single door in S14 one snowy winter.
See, this is because the background of pure entrepreneurship here from JB. So you would drive up to Sheffield and do leaflets through doors.
I would work 9 to the first house we ever bought, and I thought this was like a big step. So this was 2013. I had a full-time job. I worked in music management.
Yep.
I worked Monday to Friday, mainly night times. I'd go out and basically get drunk and talk to record label bosses all week, and then I'd drive at 5 o'clock in the morning to Sheffield, and then I'd paint and decorate a property till Sunday night, and then I'll drive back home again and do the same thing again. But I found a little sweet spot in S14.
Did you make any money though?
No, absolutely none. But I felt like I did.
But you were turning quite a bit of money, was you?
No, so in the property management business we were looking after 70-80 grand's worth of rent roll a month.
And you would keep what, 5, 6, 7 grand of that?
Exactly that. Yeah, it was a lifestyle
just had
business.
you
It
just
ticked
had
over.
wages.
Me and Hayley, between the two of us, she did all the ASTs and contracts. I would go out and meet all the new tenants, but we had everybody in WhatsApp groups. So I used to get 130 messages a day from tenants in
Saying
these
what?
properties. Pipe's not working. I don't like Dan in room 2. It's always a guy called Dan, isn't it? Why are Dan's such difficult people? So yeah, but we just didn't get that business right. And now,
Did you get into it because you thought some idiots on Facebook saying, "Oh, you can make loads of money from this"?
Yeah.
place,
You know a few of them. We'll say no more. But yeah, no, that's it. Exactly. I actually went to a seminar, and Hayley said to me, "Whatever you do, I've heard about these seminars." That's how she talks. I've heard about these seminars. Whatever you do, keep your hands in your pocket. I was like, I'm not a mug. Thank you. I don't need advice. And 4 hours later, I walked out, 1,500 quid lighter, and I had a rich dad, poor dad bag. They didn't even give me the book for free.
For those of you that don't know that reference, that's what's his Kiyosaki?
Robert Kiyosaki, yeah.
Robert
He had
Kiyosaki.
like a training company.
Very difficult to understand his name if you're dyslexic, I find.
It is.
Robert Kiyosaki, and he wrote a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is
a great book and a great concept. And
a brilliant theory.
They basically, the property training company licensed it. So I was like, well, he did it. Yeah. So surely how hard can it be?
Yeah.
I had people, I've got mates who do a lot of stuff in the property training space. 98% of people never do anything with that education.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's probably, 50 million quid worth of training every weekend in holiday inns up and down the UK that takes place. So that's property. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Don't do it. It's rubbish.
Well, it's not always rubbish. It's just you don't know what you're doing. So, and I don't mean that horribly. I think
it just came across as horrible.
Yeah, sorry,
just landed badly.
I realise maybe there's a bit of a difference between the way I do property, which is build a business and
how idiots do property. Is that
profits and then invest the profits into.
I was looking for it to make me the money to live my life on. That was the reality of it. But like I say, 70, 80 grand's worth of rent roll became 5, 6 grand. It was wages. It was in the words of James Sinclair, it's a profitable job, not a profitable business. I don't know why I always make you Alan Carr in my impressions of you.
What about and how do you get out of running the 15? You just said, no, I'm not doing this anymore, and everyone just got their properties back.
Do you know what? It was a podcast. It was a podcast that saved me. So I decided that I wanted to. Prior to that, I'd been in radio, and I got sacked from the radio. I've done a lot of things very, very badly. The ex-head of Radio 1 came into work at the radio station to control it that I was in, and he was like, we're going to make some sweeping change. And my first one is, I'm sacking you. That was literally his words on the phone to me. I was like, oh, thanks for that. Trevor Dan, you know who you are, Trevor. I'm still coming for you. And so I left radio, but I thought I'd do a podcast. And then in 2017, I did do a podcast, and then that launched me teaching people about podcasts. And then I did a podcast, which ended up resulting in...
But that's how I met you. You came to Marsh Farm
to record
probably
a podcast.
2013, 14, 15 time.
2017 it would have been. Yeah, you were episode 3.
Right.
Will the Power Polston was like, oh, I know a guy you should talk to. If you want to talk to people about interest, because the first podcast was called Standouts. It was me shouting.
And how many episodes did you get out on that? How many episodes did
25.
you do? 25. You done 25?
25 and out. It's like a solid England cricket score.
Cool.
And then that launched a coaching business, which made me a lot of money very well. I thought it made me a lot of money. That's another story. It didn't make me lots of money because the taxman asked for loads of it back, turns out.
Well, that
it's called overtrading.
I
learned about that in that year as well. Anyway, so that's why I left property.
Well, JB now joins us on this podcast
to teach you about business. So,
which
I'm only here to play the jingles,
which is 350 episodes in, and so you're now into an established podcast, and you can take all the glory for it. We are going to. Can I have a jingle while I tell everyone about our guest today?
Yeah, sure.
His name is Laurence Sate. He's got a business called Sate Motorsport Limited.
That's what I'm here for. Just that. Worth it though, right?
That sounded very good. I think most people would believe that was a real jingle, but no, that was the voice of JB. He's doing about £16,000 a month, but he did tell us before he came on air that these months fluctuate quite heavily. So in the summer, he could be doing £40,000 a month, and then in January, £8,000 a month. So massive feast and famine, but lots of businesses have that. He's got team members, yes, 3. And what's his challenges, JB?
His challenge is number 1, as you mentioned, boom in the summer and absolutely dead in the winter. And you said to him, as a joke before, it's like beans and toast in the winter. He said, that's if I can afford the bread.
Yeah,
So
I really feel for people in that.
Yeah.
And I was in that for a long time.
Yeah.
And there are ways that you can repair this, usually by creating another revenue stream, which we'll go on to tell him in a minute.
Hopefully.
What's challenge number 2?
Challenge number 2, growing in a saturated Me Too market. I do not want to compete on price. And challenge number 3, cash flow and starting at 0 every month. So another one of the, sort of the key pillars of business that you tell people not to do is starting from 0 every month.
But the reason I always preach about that is because that's a lot of businesses. They do start from 0 each month. I just think once you become aware of starting from 0 each month, and it doesn't have to be like that, you start thinking, well, actually, maybe there is other ways of doing this.
I've experienced that, and I generally learned that from you, because we went from a launching podcast model to focusing more on the monthly residual, and we start every month now with all of the bills and stuff covered. You just operate from it just takes your foot off your throat a little bit. Do you know what I mean? When you've got position of strength. That's a nicer way of putting it than foot off your throat.
There is a great little phrase. It's necessity is the mother of invention.
Yes.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I think I've got it right. Necessity is the mother of invention. Well, if you have no cash in your dead months and you want to solve that becomes a necessity. And what I did was, when I had my indoor leisure business, I opened day nurseries, to even out my cash flow. Then I opened farm parts that made money in the summer. And crucially, the farm parts have no income, or our outdoor attractions have no income in the winter. And we've had to solve that by doing big Christmas grottos and stuff just to get through. In fact, December, Marsh Farm, which is one of my businesses, takes more money than August.
Does it really?
Yeah.
That's because of the Father Christmas experience?
Absolutely.
By the way, I forgot to tell you this. Paul, my business partner in the other business, he's very, very hard to please.
Yeah.
Very hard to please.
Yeah.
He came in one Monday, I went Marsh Farm over the weekend. I went to the Father Christmas experience. I went, how was it? He went, it was absolutely unbelievably good. And he's a very miserable man.
Yeah.
He even cracked a smile about it. He said the kids loved it. He said they even got a teddy bear at the end.
Yeah, I make those teddy bears.
Of course you do. Vertical integration, isn't it? And all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of vertical integration. Yeah, as you know, if you're a regular listener. Where does this chap want to be in 1 year's time?
In 1 year's time, he wants to. Well, he says there's 4 or 5 successful teams within the UK karting industry, the pillars of the establishment, generating significant profits to be able to work full time in the business whilst being able to invest in our infrastructure to be able to offer a complete pathway for avid racing drivers. And he wants to join that roster. So that's where he wants to be in 1 year's time. He wants to be one of the 4 or 5 big ones.
What does he say what the business looks like when it's finished?
He says, to keep it simple, what you have created is what I'd like to do within the motorsport sector. Why motorsport is my sole passion. I believe it can happen. But following COVID and having started this business with no external funding, no sponsorship, etc., I'm finding it very hard to see the pathway forward. So when he says, keeping it simple, that's almost a bit an oxymoron. To keep it simple, I want to do what you've done, which I imagine he's talking about what you've done, Jimbo Sinclair, successful James. We have successful James and non-successful James. I imagine he wants to do what you've done, but that's anything but simple, isn't it? So we'll find out. And do you want to
I think I prefer this new strategy of me asking you the questions and you answering.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's
I've got less advice, because
Yeah.
otherwise you'll just jabber on for ages because you've got the answers. I've
Yeah.
just got nothing but questions, frankly.
So I asked him this: do you make the profit they want to make? If so, what is it? And he said,
No, nowhere near. Which we've already kind of established. Day to day, what do you do in the business? I work full time in education as a motorsport lecturer. Oh, okay. I took this job when my first child was born to offer security to my family. I do enjoy the work, but it is not what I want to do. Outside of this, I'm handling the administration, accounting, booking, staffing, running the events, ordering stock. It sounds like this is actually like a moderate side hustle / something he does on top of the day job. And then he's got 5 questions he'd like to ask you as well. Should we get him on then?
let's get him on.
Ooh, Laurence, are you there?
Hello.
Hello. How are you, my friend?
I'm very good. I love that jingle, and I'm going to ask if I can use that in future marketing ploys.
That is not a jingle. That is just me doing it.
Again.
I have very few skills. That's one of them. That I can sound like a dripping tap.
No, that's good. Yeah. So,
Recorded.
Laurence, welcome to Business Broadcast. You've listened to the podcast before, have you?
Yep. Every single episode, James.
Oh wow! So you know the format. So this is a side hustle to your main job, but you'd rather this be your only thing. That's correct, yeah.
In essence, yes. So I started this as a sort of an opportunity was presented to me, and basically I was just putting a couple of extra pounds in the pocket at a weekend, and then thought, okay, we could actually develop a business out of this. Pushed it. Then, as I sort of said in there, I was starting a family, and right, okay, well, as much as I'm prepared to take a risk, I don't want to risk it with a newborn baby, as it were. So came into the education side of things. It keeps me involved with what I'm enjoying, and it's kind of just stuck where it is. The intention, to be honest with you, was not to stay in education for as long as I have done, but it's kind of fit a purpose.
I think what we'll do for anyone watching the podcast on YouTube, we'll put some overlay footage of some of the website and what the actual business is, but I actually have no idea what it is. I mean, I obviously know what go-karting is. Is that all it is? And how does someone lecture about go-karting? Have I missed a beat here? Can you just explain for our audio listeners exactly what the business does?
So we offer mechanical support, driver tuition, coaching. In essence, the way I describe it to people who've asked me that question before is Formula One on a very, very small scale. So we attend all of the events around the country. We will put the drivers through their tests. They get a development program, etc., etc. The whole aim is to bring people who want to ultimately end up in the sort of Formula One great history books, to give them that starting foundation.
Right.
So do you own a track? Do you own the vehicles, or do you just own the sort of the training that you give to them and all of the sort of the services around it, like the mechanics and the training and the sport? What?
Cutting to the chase, how is the 40 grand a month? Where does that come in?
So that comes through our services, and it also comes through the sale of parts, carts, chassis, engines, etc. Because what we do on top of our race support services is we do carry a quite significant, substantial stock of spare parts. So we're selling parts to people when we're at the venues. We're maintaining the equipment. You could say it's very similar to a car garage. So people will bring their equipment to us. We'll maintain it, we'll repair it, and then we'll give it back to them, or we'll store it, etc. There's quite a few sort of pieces to the puzzle.
Right, that makes sense.
So you're going to race meets, and then if, for example, if someone sticks it into the wall and they've broken their rear axle, they can come to you and you can switch out.
So yeah, it is awkward when when someone does cause that damage, because ultimately for us, that is a revenue generating thing. It is a hard thing to kind of promote and push. Don't worry, if you crash, we can fix it. It's a hard way to go about it, because the aim of the game is not to crash. It's to actually win and be competing on the circuit. But people do crash. It's kind of one of those, and that's why we invested quite a lot of money into having all of these spare parts, is because it is an eventuality. It will happen.
Yeah, I get it now. So the 40,000, but what? No one's buying anything in October, November, December, January, February because there's not race meets on. Is that the reason?
There is race meets on, but it's the weather. It is the weather side of things. A lot of people will stay at home because it's warmer. Standing out effectively in the countryside in the winter is challenging, to say the least. But a lot of the main championships that people want to do, they are a summer championship. There are things happening over the winter. They're just not that popular. I can only assume it's winter, it's Christmas, it's an expensive time of year, full stop. Whereas people will have a bit more spendable income. It's much more obtainable throughout the summer. They haven't got to worry about Christmas. They haven't got to worry about the new year and things like that.
Well, I already know what I would do if I was in your shoes. If this was my business, I would buy an indoor go-kart track. I actually looked to do that myself a number of times. They're very profitable. Then I would have a showroom there selling all the stuff. And then I would try and buy an outdoor go-kart track that sort of folds into the existing empire. I would use it as a studio to create content. That's exactly what I would do, because they would make more money in the winter than the summer. But they would not be as seasonal, even based on that all year round. And I know that because I've actually looked to buy a couple of these, and I got very close to buying one only a few years ago. Bloody lovely businesses they are.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
That's the kind of that. Yeah, I like that. I do like that, and that's where I sort of said about effectively doing what you've done within your sector. That they're the ideas that I kind of need to look at. You know, is as I say with the parts side of things. Yeah, that's great, but anyone can fill a van up with that stock. You know, it's easily purchased. It's right. Okay, let's do something that's a little bit more exclusive. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I would. Yeah, because there's, I suppose you're sending out parts in the post all the time as well, aren't you? I'm sure there's an element of that, is there?
Yeah,
Yeah, so you base
yeah,
that all
yeah.
from, where are you storing all this stuff? Have you got a little warehouse for that anyway already?
Yeah. So we've got a little commercial property.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got
So
I'd say it's about 600 square meters. It's not a massive plot, but it does the job for us. You know, it works perfectly. It's all racked out as it needs to be. It's
so there's two
yeah.
options here.
We could do with more space always, but everyone
Yeah,
says that.
yeah, everyone could do it. There's two options here. You can go and buy one if there's one for sale. I imagine there's not many for sale in the country, or you can set up your own one and attract all the people that usually race in the summer to come there in the winter. Then you can do corporate events throughout the rest of the year. It would be very easy to get lease finance on this. Because you say, look, I've got a profitable business. It's been going for years. So you go to one of the lease finance companies. We can introduce you to someone that would help you with that. You get 200, 300,000 of lease finance for all the cars.
Yeah.
And then you lease a big property. Try and get a lease option so you can lease it with an option to purchase it in the future, and you lock in the price now. Then you can, turn that into something really lovely. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
I think
it's a great idea. I do think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Where are you based at the moment, Laurence? Are you at a local track? Because I can see on your website there's like you offer like circuit sessions. Like what have you got, like a partnership with like a local place that you go to for that, or?
We're based we're Maidstone in Kent, and we've got 3 circuits that are within 45 minutes drive from our front door. So we've got, these are the tracks that I started the business at. You know, I've known the owners, I've known them for a long time, and we simply ring them up. Right, we've got this, we got that. What are your dates? And we go and do it. Yeah.
Have you ever spoken to any of the owners about if they would like to sell their business to you one day?
I haven't, no, but I think that might be a good option. That's something I would like to do. It's not ever really crossed my mind. These guys,
just say to them, if you ever want to sell,
they've all been in it for so long, but I've always thought, okay, well, maybe they're not going to sell, but you're right.
Yeah, just plant the seed there. Just say, look, if you ever want to sell this one day, do think of us. I'd love to have a little chat with you. And just so I understand, these carts the carts that you sell are the same ones that do indoor go-karting. They're similar, are they?
No, completely different.
All right, okay. Okay, then that's it.
that's a strain of thought.
That's that out.
Yeah.
So at the moment, because I've got one of my friends, he used to run an F3 team, and
I do have good links. Go on.
So he used to say that sort of the F3 stuff. He used to have a lot of the now like Lewis Hamilton used to race in his cars, and they would these young talented kids would have sponsorship, and they'd almost pay to drive for you for the season, so they could get their hours in. Do you do much revenue in that regard? So you've got people who are sort of going through that karting scheme onto the next stages, or is it too early? Like someone like an early Lewis Hamilton wouldn't pay you to be his team, or how does that work?
Yeah, so a lot of our drivers will start with us, and they will then go off and become, greats of either racing here in the UK. Some will go out to Europe. One of our most recent lads, he started with us when he was 8, and he was one of the front runners in the world finals out in Bahrain, I want to say it was. So it is almost sort of the first stepping stone in that motorsport journey. These kids, do use us to then hop on. But within the karting scene itself in the UK, the owner driver stuff that we do, you've got a club level, regional, and then a national. We do all three, but where we see these guys go is they'll start with us and then they'll move on to the sort of top 4 or 5 teams within the UK. The pillars of the establishment, they go off to them and then they will continue their journey on.
Why would they not stay with you? What's the difference between you guys currently and the sort of 4 or 5 key pillars of the establishment?
I would love to know the answer to that question. I really would, because I think I would be in that position as we are. I think the main sort of gripe that we would have with that is these guys have got a lot more experience, they've got a lot more data, and they in the grand scheme it would look as if they would be able to offer a better service than us. They've been around the block a few times, where we've only been around it once as such. It is a challenging one in that respect.
So I don't understand. So we're losing the customers to other people that can repair go-karts. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they run them as management teams. So a kid would come to race for that team and would be with them for a season, and they would pay, I guess, a fee. Is that how it works, Laurence? They'll pay you a fee to be their race team for the season?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely spot on. Yeah.
And then they would get to a certain level, and then they're going to 4 or 5 of the more established ones have they got better like carts? Have they got or is it literally sort of the tech behind the scenes? And can they bring in like more brand deals, sponsorship, help with funding? Is that what the bigger ones bring to the table that maybe you guys don't?
Yeah, that's where I see it. So these guys, they've been around the game for a lot longer. They've got a lot more experience. They've won world championships, Europeans. They are the next step up from where we are. We've not tried to compete for a world championship. We've not tried to compete for a European championship. That takes a lot of time to develop the driver set and the skills to do that. And that's something we are working towards actually trying to achieve. The sort of repair and the sales side of things is one bit of it. It's more, right, what can you offer this driver? What is the package? Is it going to be supportive? Is it going to be the right way? I know ours is. We've created a load of champions within what we have competed in. It is just a case, in order to go to these events, you've got to have the people there.
So it's really, you've got 2 businesses. One's a race team and one's a supply chain business, yeah? Or a repairs business. For me, I don't actually know.
Under the same roof.
Yeah. I don't actually understand much about the race business. I don't think I'm clued up to give you the best possible advice without really understanding it. Where I think I can add value is on these services, parts, chassis, engines. Where do you go to source all your products from? Are they based in the UK or are they from China and India and Turkey? And
so they're imported into the UK, and they're under license. So they're under license with particular suppliers. They're the UK importer. So we deal directly with the importers, and we then sell it on from there.
Cool. I wonder if I know one of these people. Is it one of them? I suppose you probably don't want to mention their name, do you?
I don't mind.
Is one of them? Do you know a guy called Simon?
Simon. I know a few.
Simon Heap, I believe his name is. Have you heard of him?
The name does ring a bit of a bell.
Yeah, I can't remember his business, but I saw him out in China and he was buying all go-kart parts, and we were buying things together. And I do think there is a clear advantage of you getting on the plane and doing that stuff and increasing your margins. Have you thought about that?
I have, and I was going to do that just before lockdown when we were really kind of booming and really busy. The intention was, right, let's go out, let's see where we can get the quick grab things, chains, sprockets, the stuff that people chew up all the time. I knew where our suppliers were getting them from, and it was from the Far East. So right, let's go and get it. Keeping the business alive through lockdown kind of sapped all of that resource. I think more so it's something that I would it's definitely something I want to do. It is something I want to do. It's just, okay, we've got to get the capital to be able to do that, because it's not, we can just order 100, we've got to order, pallets of the things.
No, I wouldn't be so sure.
Storage isn't a problem, it is just the revenue.
I wouldn't be so sure that you do need to order pallets of the things. I think
Mm.
the thing I would be thinking about is getting on the plane and actually going to these factories and seeing, and then you start making the belief happen because you're going out there and seeing it, and it becomes a much quicker process of getting it over the line. And some factories will go, yeah, I really believe you. You've taken the effort to come and see us. We'll give you a credit line and you can pay us back within 6 months. But you ain't going
Okay.
to get that
Okay.
over
That's
Zoom.
interesting. I didn't know that.
I mean, not always. And these are not easy things to do, but people that start
Yeah.
businesses and create things, they just ask the questions and go, right, we've got all these customers, we've got a bit of money, but not enough money. What can you do to help us? And that's how I would
Mm.
always approach that. But I get those deals and get those things over the line because you get on the plane and go out there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that's good advice. Thank you.
I think the other thing from the other reason why potentially you might be losing some of the talent, let's say they come and they have a good season with you and then they want to take up to the next level and they go to the next level of team, that's all sort of, okay, credibility that they've already got. But a lot of that is perception as well. I think if you guys really nail down your content marketing, because if you look at all the athletes these days, Conor McGregor makes more now from sponsored deals than he does from fighting in an octagon by a long way. Same with Lewis Hamilton. Obviously he makes a huge amount of money from driving in F1, but he will get more from his sponsorship arrangements with all of his sponsors. So I think if you could see, if you can allude to the fact with your content that actually that you know how to grow an audience, how you could get people interested in it, how you could potentially broker sponsor deals for these kids, and you're probably very well versed with who these people would need to be in the first instance, that when you're then pitching them, or I guess it's the parents of why you're the race team for them, you're not just doing it based on, we're really good at mechanics, we're really good at this, here's our equipment. It's also, here's the relationships we've got, here's the content that we can create, here's the marketing opportunity that we can give to your kids. And when you sell the brand perception of that, it becomes more, it's almost more than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense. Because if they can see that they're raising their profile whilst they're doing what they're doing, I think there's like an intrinsic value and benefit to that. But you guys have got to get really, really good at the marketing first. I can see from the websites, okay, if I'm being honest, the social media is okay, but I think if you found like the karting version of Chuds, who could come in and be like an absolute video ninja who makes your content absolutely sing, I think you'll get so many more people who want to be part of your team, because you look at like Monster Energy, for example. Sugary death in a can, frankly, isn't it? But they've just branded it really well around the right kind of sports. And I think you could do the same sort of thing if you got the content part of it right. And the brilliant thing is that you've got something that people want to watch, like your TikTok channel. It should have many, many more viewers than it's got, because the thing you've got is cool and it's super visual.
Yeah. Well, one of the questions I've got, what if you was putting a percentage on the revenue, the sponsorship racing revenue makes up what percentage v the selling the parts and the services and the chassis and the engines?
I would say you've got 60% in the support side of things, with 40% in the sales.
Supported the race team
Off the top of my
management
head.
side of it. Yeah.
Race team
Yeah.
management. Okay. And what's more profitable?
Management.
Okay. Do you produce
Absolutely. The margin? Go on.
What accountancy system do you use for the business?
Zero.
Do you do the books?
I do dabble with them, yes, but I do have a bookkeeper that I kind of put the final bits through together. I'm a little bit of a control freak. I know that's something that I need to let go and ultimately outsource. It's a waste of time, but it's I like to keep an idea of where the business is at.
James Sinclair, not a fan of outsourcing. And your bookkeeper, what role does she do? Does she just doing the VAT return, the wages, that sort of stuff, or is she producing management accounts?
I get all of so I would log into Zero and get those for myself. We sit down and have a review of them at the end of the month just to see where we're at. So we can kind of forecast where the business is going to go.
With her,
just,
or
nothing
on your own?
With her, yeah.
So she's making sure they're up to date, because the thing is, the management accounts are only as good as the bookkeeping.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I first started, I learned that lesson quite quick. Yeah.
Yeah. What's have you got any other questions you'd like to ask me to help grow your business?
So the main one really is how would you recommend to stand out in a Me Too sector? There's a lot of people who can just set up. You could easily go and set up what I've done with a tent in the back of your car. It's very very easily accessible. How
Well,
would you
if
recommend
that's
to avoid that?
I would have my own venue.
Yeah,
And don't be
yeah,
that I haven't got the money to do that. Be the problem is go and talk to other people that want to sell. Maybe you can use vendor or seller finance. Go and talk to councils that might own places that would let you put a venue there because they've just got empty buildings. Yeah, I would do that and then bring people to your
yeah.
own venue. I mean, if you've managed to get 300,000-400,000 a year of revenue through just doing it out at the back of the van. I'm very confident, and that's hard to do. I think I'm very confident that having a venue and thinking bigger would serve you well. What say you?
Mm. I agree. I agree entirely. It's the most sensible way forward, and it looks like I've got a few phone calls to make. Absolutely.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
The other thing that I think you could potentially do is if there isn't, from having these conversations, and maybe this doesn't work in this sector because I don't know motorsport at all, apart from watching that amazing series on Amazon Prime, which was phenomenal. But other than that, if you can't find someone who wants to sell you their venue, would there be a value to them if they had an in-house race team? If that makes sense. So I can see on your website that you're linked to Medway Valley Kart Club, I think, and my eyesight's eluding me today.
Yeah.
But would Medway Valley have value from having an in-house karting team? If it was home to Sate Racing, would that be a value add to them? And then they've already got the eyeballs and the footfall and the traffic that's coming to their venue all the time anyway. And then if people are going to these birthday parties and they're seeing the next level of karting, could you be doing leafleting at those, if you want to take it from birthday party to your first semi-pro race or whatever. I mean, don't use that as a tagline, it's terrible, but you get the idea. Like you've got a warm audience who's already going through that. Could you do some sort of a partnership agreement with a race venue?
There's no reason I couldn't. There's no reason that wouldn't be a possibility. It's that I hadn't even thought of. So I'm gonna push on with that. I like that. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about this racing thing. JB actually knows a lot more about it than me, quite clearly, Mr. Hamilton over there. But I would say that this management that you're generating 60% of your revenue from, that if you did have a venue, you'd probably get more people to trust you and probably get more business because of it. Does Beyonce want to come and sing round your house for a gig, or does she want to go to Wembley Stadium? And when you have got venues, people trust you. Was that a good analogy? I don't know.
That was the weirdest analogy ever.
Yeah, but I think sometimes if you are higher barrier to entry, people trust you more.
Yeah, that is true.
That.
You also, I've got a question about your day job, Laurence. So you're, as a full-time gig to pay the bills, you're a race tutor?
Yep.
What does a race tutor do?
So I teach in motor vehicle and motorsport. So my background is I'm a mechanic. So I train through with BMW through their academy, and I can turn a nut and a bolt. This is the easiest way to sort of explain that. And all I do is show the next generation how to do exactly that. So they learn from what I will show them, what I'll teach them, so they can then ultimately go out and get a job within either the motorsport industry, in the retail motor industry, whatever is their pick. If they want to work with cars, I will teach them how to work with cars.
So is that like you're a tutor for a college or like a tuition brand or?
Yeah, so I'm a tutor for a college. So I work for North Kent College, and I'll be honest, it's a thoroughly enjoyable job, and it is something that I did think about adding into the business. Is actually, for the likes of yourselves, you said you don't really understand the motorsport world quite so as intently as I do, what do you reckon to that? Would that be potentially a good idea? Opening effectively a training academy within the motorsport business to bring people through. I've thought about it, but I've not really actioned it.
I would go to the college and say,
Mm.
can we share the syllabus and the funding and actually do it
Yeah,
on my venue?
yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
So that's how I would deal with that, because when you then go to the bank for funding and say, look, we've got this college that will be paying us X, Y, Z, and that's pretty much guaranteed. And banks love funding education.
That's
Lots to
definitely
think
food for
about.
thought.
Anything else you'd like to ask us?
A lot. No, I think that is everything pretty much covered. That's you've answered my sort of questions that I did have, and I think I've got a lot of stuff to think about and a lot of stuff to go and do.
Good stuff. Well, thanks for being on this here business broadcast. He's a nice chap, wasn't he?
Very nice, lovely fella. And if you're interested, you will put a link in the show notes. You can go and find out more about Laurence over at Sate Motorsports.
Yeah.
.co.uk. That's
not a business that I've really. I mean, I've
you
indoor
got close,
karting.
did you, a couple of times to karting?
Yeah, indoor karting. Yeah, and outdoor karting tracks.
So why? Okay, here's one.
I actually went and saw someone that had a little chain of indoor karting tracks.
Why would you not just open one from scratch?
I just always like to repair something that's already profitable.
Gotcha.
And it is all set up. I think it costs a lot to set one up from certainly a. I'm just going to move that a bit closer to me. Certainly an outdoor one where you've got to put all the roads, get all the planning permission. I think an indoor one is cheaper, but lots of VC and private equity money have gone into indoor karting tracks.
Yeah, there's a few quite popular chains now, isn't there? Because
Yeah.
I guess you've got like the kiddie market. You've also then got the stag and hen do market, which is super popular. I went to one in last year for a mate's stag do, and it was absolutely heaving. They're almost like, you don't just go for karting now. They do really good like food. It's kind of like where we are today. Like, there's good food, there's good drinks. It's an experience, not just you don't just go to race. You go for the experience of being there.
And super regulars, like here at Roller City, you know, where we're recording this podcast today, we have lots of regulars that come twice a week. And karting, like, obviously that's the business Laurence in. They're buying regular things, their carts. But then there's also this big one-off market that might only do it once every 5 years.
Yeah.
And if you get good at marketing to those people, I think that can be good. And you can like run Facebook ads and fill up on your dead times with the one-off people. Like bowling has become a very profitable sector for leisure as well now. Because again, you know, you got 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds and very popular again, making good money. A good bowling site can make 300, 400,000, 500,000 a profit at one location.
What's your indoor leisure sectors at yours? Because you've said a couple of weeks ago that sort of indoor leisure is not something that you're that hot on at the moment, or in terms of like soft plays, for example.
Yeah, and restaurants.
What sectors are you proactively having a look at?
I think bowling is good. I actually think as you get the right locations and your right operational overheads, that means the rent and the rates are good. I think roller skating and bowling is good.
So
casinos maybe, if you can get the right overheads? I know they can be very profitable. I know a lot of them are not profitable because they have such high rents and such high business rates.
Just what sort of as a sector?
Yeah, I think the council rate them very high.
Right.
And the landlords rate them very high in terms of rents. But like this building that we're recording this from today, you know, if this was commercially rented, it would probably be £170,000 a year rent. And then you would have half of that as your rateable value. You would have to pay to the local council.
Yeah.
So what have we got there? 90 plus 170 plus electric.
So you're 300 grand, aren't you, before you even get started?
At least before staff. I would say with insurance, say 370.
Yeah, cool.
But a lot of places like this would be higher rent than that. But we own the freehold.
Yeah.
So our mortgage is, say, 60 grand a year. So we're much further ahead in terms of cash flow. And then you own it at the end of the day.
What do you have to put down for people who maybe like a Laurence, who's thinking about it? Is it same sort of thing as in like residential property, like you need 25%, or is it 60-40?
No, I think if you're buying it for investment, it's 60-40.
Yeah.
But if you're buying it to trade from and you've got proven track record, I think you'll find banks are very accommodating.
To what extent?
Sometimes even 100% finance.
Really?
especially if you've got security in the background, like you own a house.
Let's say, for example, though, like Laurence has got, it's by the sounds of it, it's like he said, a bit feast and famine. Let's say it averages out 10k a month. It's doing 120. It's probably.
Yeah, but that would be difficult, and I know that for Laurence, and that's why I was saying that's where a lease option can serve you well.
Right.
So you say to the landlord, "Can I lease it to you? But any time within 5 years."
You have the right, but not the obligation to buy the property.
Well, no,
or
the absolute
business.
right. So the
Yeah.
landlord cannot say no if you wave your hand and say,
And you fix the price.
and you fix the price. Now, sometimes they won't let you fix the price, but I've done that a number of times. It's called a lease option, which definitely works in commercial. And then you go to the bank and say, look, I've been paying the rent for the last 3 years. Here's my books for the last 3 years.
Oh, so you trade it and then you
Yeah,
value the
then you
business.
show
Right,
you
gotcha.
go back to the bank and say, look, it's tried, tested, proven. I've fixed the price at 1.5 million, but they'll value it as a trading business. It might be now worth 2.5 million with property and trade combined. You get marriage rights, which raises the value when you've got both. And the bank go, right, so it's 2.5 million. You've paid the rent for the last 3 years. You fitted that business out, so you've got skin in the game. You've put cash into the business over a period of time. And they might say, yeah, we'll lend you that 100% or 90% or 85%. 85% very easy because it's owner occupied. But, they might say, well, okay, we'll lend you 85% over 25 years or 20 years, and we'll lend you the 15% over 7 years. So you have two loans in parallel. Now, all of this stuff, not super easy if you're, but possible.
Yeah.
I've done all these things. But there are the caveats. You've got to trade the business. This is not investment.
Yeah.
Now, the banks don't mind if you set it up as propco-opco situation, but they want the same owners having both.
For both.
No, and if you trade it for 10 years and you've paid a big chunk of the property off and you want to sell the business and keep the property, the bank will be supportive of that because you would have paid so much of the capital down that you could then flip it into an investment loan.
And in that instance there, the 85 and the 15%, will they have like different sort of interest rates and stuff?
With different...
And
Maybe
different lending criterias for it.
I've done so many different deals, but I think what you need to do to a bank is explain that this is an opportunity.
Yeah. Do you have to pitch them as if it's like you're going to a VC in a way? Do you have to go and sort of like sell them on the concept in the bank?
I think you just, look, when you're borrowing from banks, they work to management, affordability, security. And I think everyone thinks it's security, affordability and management. It's not. A bank manager or a bank, if they think the person is a wally, even if you've got all the security on the planet,
money.
they just don't want to lend to wallies, So they're looking, is this person experienced and understand the sector and is proven? And if that's yes, right, can he afford it? Okay, he can afford it. Right, has he got any security? Okay, right. Well, we're doing 100% here, but we sort of believe in it's going to reduce his cash flow because his mortgage is going to be cheaper than his rent. Maybe there's some government-backed loans that can be done. Or maybe there's a family relative that might say that you can take a second charge over a property for 3 years. Because what the bank are looking for is usually skin in the game, that they're not just funding
Giving you
something new. But if you've got the experience and you've tried, tested and proven. I mean, the government used to have something called the Enterprise Finance Back Guarantee Scheme, which was just for this, for tried, tested, and proven, good businesses, but didn't have security. The government would step in and give the security for the bank.
Oh, okay.
And that's what bounce back loans were and Sybils. A lot of that was the government acting as the security for the bank.
Right. But that's gone now.
No, but there is a recovery loan scheme. There is always something out there that the government will stand in as the security. If the bank would lend on management and affordability, but there's no security, usually there is a means via the government to step in as a security. But cash flow lending, which is unsecured debt, all the big banks do, not as easy as secured debt. But if they believe in the product, then you get the money. Now you think about venture capital, where big money goes. None of that's secured back lending.
No.
Zuckerberg or, getting his billions in for Facebook, his house ain't, well, it might be now, but when he started at 18, 19, 20, he certainly didn't have the security for the money that was going in.
Yeah.
And, if you look at Business Growth Fund, which is one of the UK's biggest private equity companies in the country, backed by British government, all big five banks, and they are lending millions to over 500 businesses in the last 10 years since 2000, or 14 years since 2008, they have lent hundreds of millions, billions into UK businesses by giving in unsecured debt. Now, they take equity in the business, absolutely, but the founders of some massive brands here in the UK, I mean, absolutely, I think it's worth me probably just mentioning it, because I think this is a real thing for people to understand. You know, when businesses get to a certain level outside of the value of their house, then all of that's unsecured debt, and they're lending on management and affordability.
Have you ever lost that? Have you ever gone and seen a great business and a great opportunity, but you just can't sell the bank on the concept, even though that you're a good. You look so. Do you still to this day now?
Yeah. So then I'm an idiot, and I end up doing it myself.
How do you end up doing it yourself? Like venture,
just use your cash flow, and then get right, approve the concept, and then just about get the money in. And I think that's, you know,
what, prove the concept and then go back to the bank and go, look,
so
I told you it'd work.
I haven't gone to the bank for this. I just done this
for Roller
myself.
City.
Yeah.
Would they not have lent on this then?
Because I've never had one before, but I'll have a year's management account. And so look, I've done it now. Can you?
Well, because you've never had a roller disco arena. They could go, well, you haven't done it, but what, 10 soft plays, some farm parks, not water sports. What's that thing? A water slide place.
Yeah, they must do similar, but I mean, I'm doing so many things, JB, that they I mean, we just lent you 2 million to go and buy 3 more nurseries or set up 3 more nurseries.
So they worried about a split of your focus?
No, I don't think it's...
They're trying to mother you. Who are these people? I'll go and speak to them for you.
It's just the way they are. You know, they're cautious lenders, aren't they?
Yeah. Have you got multiple... Could you not go to multiple...
But that's why venture capital and private equity exist, because they would love it.
So why do you hate them so much? If they can make you...
I don't want to be told what to do.
Yeah, but what if they promise you they wouldn't tell you what to do?
It's not true. The promise is not true.
What if they pinky promised?
And I believe in ownership. I would not enjoy it.
No. Well, even if they said, right, look, you've got like a 10 million quid drawdown facility here. The pot's here. We're going to take
the venture capitalist people.
We're going to take 10%.
Because if something doesn't go right, then you have to go to a board meeting and they're going, yeah, you said this, you know, like you do 99 things right.
This is why they don't want to talk to you, because you do that as an impression of them.
Yeah, well, I know them all. I've met them all, and I met 4 last week on something else that I'm helping someone with. And I said, yeah, Laura, if I'm on the side of the table and telling you what you're doing wrong, that I would quite enjoy, but I don't want you to say it to me. So this is BGF, just to give you an idea. Have you heard of giggling squid?
I have heard of giggling squid.
I know you have. Popped up everywhere.
Yeah.
You can always see it in restaurants. They just go from 0 to hero overnight. Yeah. And that's because they're private equity backed. Have you heard Joe and Seth's popcorn?
Yes, I have.
Well, that's private equity backed.
They won a GBEA award a couple of years ago, didn't you win one of them?
Yeah, I won one of them, yeah. I've won quite a few things. I'm trying to think of some other. Gusto, have you heard of Gusto?
I've heard of Gusto.
Yeah, private equity backed. Usually if you see a company go from 0 to hero, bloody hell, they're everywhere. And they're from, you know, literally nothing. Gymbox, heard of Gymbox?
Yeah.
Big, the Furniture Village.
Yeah. So why could you now, are you not at the size where you could go to them and go, right, I've got...
Oh, they would love to buy into me. They would love it.
So is that a private company? Is that a private...
So BGF is I would say, is like venture capital private equity with a cuddle. They were launched in 2008 by a British government as an answer, because we had the funding crisis and none of the banks were lending. Really, the government said, right, we're starting this. And they went to, the big 5, HSBC, Barclays, et al., and said, you're going to put some money into BGF. We're going to put some money into BGF. And it's been very successful. They've done some really, really good things. But,
does it help small businesses, or does it help? Because the ones you mentioned there, they've already got 15, 20 locations in this case.
So these would be, they would be,
So
Giggling Squid may build up, I don't know the actual story, but say they built up to 15 restaurants, they trundle on to the bank and go, can we have the money to open 35 more?
Yeah.
The bank would say, we'll lend you the money to open 3 more. But the founders might think, well, no, actually, we want to get going really quick. And that's where private equity are very useful, because they are all about get big, quick, and sell again in 5 years' time to a bigger private equity or to a big trade finance.
So is a BGF almost like a government version of like a round C of funding? Like you've already got proof of concept, you've already got a little bit of C capital, and you've got green shoots.
I wouldn't see BGF or most private equity as startup funding unless the person that's starting it has significant experience and success in the past. So I do know actually BGF, there's 4 companies in there that they fund. I found this out yesterday, and Peter Jones from Dragon's Den is a shareholder in some of those things. They go in with other people, and they're very smart people. Venture capitalists, private equity people have significant success rate.
Have they never come to you then and said, not BGF specifically, but VC firms never come to you? Go, obviously, you know how to not back a winner because you make them winners, but you're an operator. Would they go into, like, they're not going to buy into Partyman Group as such? Would they buy into you and go, right, you point and shoot and deploy our cash?
Because usually they're backing founders, but they might say to me, we've got this founder who's built 10-day nurseries. We want to put 25 million into them. Can you go and sit on the board and be an executive chairman and help them grow and then pay you?
Would you do that?
Not now because I haven't got the time. But, if I was 60, I'd certainly consider doing something like that if I had time. I probably wouldn't do that because I'm an out-and-out entrepreneur, and I'd probably, even at 60, be, buying Heathrow Airport or something. I don't know. That's my joke that I say to people. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Well, we've talked about motorsport, investments, different funding options. Thinking bigger has come up yet again. That's another constant and consistent. And do you know what, actually, the other benefit of doing these podcasts, other than getting to just spend time with you, which is a lovely thing, having a lovely chicken curry before we start each time, which is probably not great for the diet or the waistline, but actually there's whole
no cream in it. I think it's quite healthy, that chicken.
Do you reckon?
Curry. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything bloody remotely healthy about that curry.
I think chicken curry is all right. As long as you don't put cream in it.
This is not like like a Waitrose podcast. But I think that thinking bigger thing, people need to, whilst it's outside their comfort zone, they need to keep hearing that. They need to keep coming back and hearing that again week after week. Because something came up the other day and I was like, oh, that would work as a recording studio. That would work as a podcast studio. Normally I'd be like, well, how's that going to happen? Now I'm like, just if it's going to work, it's going to work. Just don't worry about it. Just think bigger. I've still not done anything, so I'm still a work in progress, but we'll get there. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this episode of Business Broadcast, make sure if you're watching on the old YouTube that you hit the subscribe button. Chuds likes it.
Share the conversation with someone that needs to hear it. I think that's really important. Just one person. Just say, look, have a little listen to this.
Maybe there's a go-karting owner who's looking for other ways to, on their quiet days, going, oh, do you know what? I'd absolutely flipping love a race team in here. But there you go. And I'm based in Kent. There you go.
There you go.
Ask and thou shall receive. Make sure also, if you are listening on the podcast on Apple, Spotify or Stitcher, give us a 5-star review wherever you download your podcast, because that actually really does help.
Yeah, absolutely do. Yeah,
algorithm and all that kind of good stuff.
And if you want to come on this podcast and share your story, it's absolutely free to do. I always like to say there's no such thing as a free lunch, but here there is. And you get to expose your business to the thousands of people. And I think it's worth saying, after your podcast being out a year, a good 50 to 100,000 people would have listened to it. If not, after 18 months for sure. And that's a lot of eyeballs and ears on your business. And I absolutely know people that have been on this podcast, they get business from it. That's not the reason that we do it. We want to help people and we want those conversations to be honest. I know people have got investment and funding from being on this podcast, just from people that have listened and reached out. So there's many advantages. And obviously, hopefully, we give you some great advice on how to grow your business as well. With that said, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed that little conversation with Laurence. If you'd like that conversation, check out this conversation by clicking here and subscribe to the channel by clicking there. And also, don't forget, we bring out great new podcasts for you to watch every Sunday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. See you on the next one. Don't forget, hit subscribe.